Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this video is on Simon the Magician by Manly P. Hall, an article taken from Horizon, Volume 16, Number 2, Autumn 1956. Simon the Magician. In the 8th chapter of Acts, verse 9 through 24, there is a reference to a certain man called Simon, who had bewitched the people of Sumaria. It states that he was baptized, perhaps by Philip, and later his sincerity was challenged by Peter. The repentance of Simon is intimated, and after this episode, he disappears from the scriptural writings, but not from the legendry and lore of the early church. According to this, Simon, called the Magician, there gradually developed a symbolic situation in which he came to represent the very embodiment of the heathen practices which threatened the ministry of the apostles and their followers. On the historical Simon, very little is actually known, for his enemies were his biographers, and they were not impelled to treat his name or memory with much charity. In the course of time, Simon Magus has came to be recognized as the moving spirit behind Syrian Gnosticism. This sect, which was later to flourish in North Africa, must be recognized as an important mystical, philosophical movement which flourished between the 1st and 3rd centuries of the Christian era. It drew to itself a brilliant company of scholars and transcendentalists who sought to restore the universal religion of antiquity. These men derived their inspiration from the streams of Eastern metaphysics that flowed along the cavern routes between Asia, the Near East, and North Africa, from what can actually be restored from the fragments of learning which have survived. It would seem that their teachings were essentially noble, liberal, and at the same time profound. The very nature of Gnosticism opened it to the antagonism of the early church fathers, who rejoiced in branding it not only heretical, but infernally inspired for the purpose of discrediting the Christian ministry. Beneath all the recriminations, one can only recognize the conflict between schools of belief, all sincere but, on the level of debate, completely irreconcilable. Simon became the embodiment of the adversary, a thorn in the flesh to all believers, and, worst of all, a worker of miracles, and therefore an open competition to the wonder-working of the apostles. It is now generally acknowledged that the Simon of the Fathers, and, for that matter, the Simon of the latter legends, is an almost complete fabrication, suspended from the simple reference in the Acts of the Apostles. Popular dislike for Simon has gradually subsided as a result of critical scholarship, and it is acknowledged that in all probability, he is to be included among the wandering teachers and professors of theurgic arts who were not common at the time and under the prevailing trend of beliefs. Such statements of Simon's philosophy as have been preserved include the following definition of God. I say, there are many gods, but one God of all these gods, incomprehensible and unknown to all, a power of immeasurable and ineffable light, whose greatness is held to be incomprehensible, a power which the maker of the world does not know. This would scarcely suggest an evil or corrupt person. From this universal principle, there emerges, as from invisible, inapprehensible silence, a mysterious triad of that which stood, stands, and will stand. This triad, Simon described as the principles of incorruptible form, universal mind, and the great thought. From this thought emerges eons of power, 7 creative deities or spirits. These ultimately bring forth the lower regions or worlds, which are generated by the great thought and upon which it moves, brings forth mortal creation. Thus, the eonology of Simon corresponds to that of the Orphites. and is indebted strongly to the teachings of Pythagoras and Plato. The most fantastic of the many legends concerning Simon is contained in the apocryphal Acts of the Holy Apostles Peter and Paul. The origin of this work is uncertain. Some parts are considered to be early, others are most certainly comparatively late. A translation of a portion of this apocryphal book appeared in 1490, and Dr. Tischendorf examined 6 manuscripts, the oldest of which dated from the 9th century. We may therefore have certain reservations concerning the authenticity of this account, not only because it was probably compiled after the legend of Simon had passed through numerous cycles of embellishment, but also because it was obviously written to discredit the magician in every possible way. Simon Magus, supported in the air by demons. The account makes both Peter and Paul involved in a mortal conflict with Simon. The magician attempted to win Nero away from the Christian cause. The intimate association between Nero, Simon, Peter, and Paul is historically absurd and contrary to all historical records. Be this as it may, Simon offered to ascend to heaven in the presence of the assembled multitude if Nero would order a great tower to be made of wood. Simon explained that the angels would not descend upon the surface of the earth and mingle with sinners, but they would come to him upon the heights of this tower. Nero then ordered the tower to be built by the Campus Martius, and the emperor ordered both Peter and Paul to be present. Simon ascended the tower and, facing the huge gathering, stood crowned with laurels. He stretched forth his hand and immediately began to fly, floating in the sky without any visible means of support. Nero then turned to Peter and Paul and inquired if they still doubted the divinity of Simon. In this extremity, Peter looked steadfastly against Simon and ordered the angels of Satan, who were carrying Simon in the air so as to deceive the hearts of the people, to release the magician. Immediately the demons let go of Simon, who fell from the great height into a place called Sacravia, and by some accounts he is said to have perished, and by others to have had his legs broken. Nero, taking the attitude that Peter and Paul were responsible for Simon's disaster, and considered the whole episode a competition in magic, ordered Peter and Paul to be put in irons. The accepted version of the account relates that the emperor hoped for a time that Simon would be restored to life and recover from his injuries. When such events did not take place, he ordered the execution of both Peter and Paul, according to the traditional accounts of their martyrdom. About all that Simon actually proved was that he may have possessed the same magical powers attributed to Eastern conjurers and wonder workers. From what we can learn historically, it would appear that Simon himself was unaware of the wondrous circumstances and continued to teach in the regions around Sumaria, where he later died and was buried. The tale of Simon's levitation intrigued the mind of artists, and typically representations of the magician floating through the air, sustained by imps of darkness, is included herewith. The moral lesson seems to be that when the wrong person performs miraculous actions, miracles are not proof of sanctity. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.